When the hurly-burly's done, when the battle's lost and won, this guy, time is what will remain, or not. Hi, welcome to Kick-Ass Switch, putting the K in magic. I'm Joanna DeVoe, and you are not watching a video about a gold skull or Macbeth. I try to make interesting, fun little quirky openings for you guys, so because I like to make people laugh, but also just to give you a clue about what the rest of the video is going to be about. And I'm going to recommend that you don't read too much into the opening for this video. It was just me being silly and quoting Macbeth and really just wanting to show off this guy who cost me a whole $1. I got him at the Dollar Tree a couple of weeks ago, and the second I laid eyes on him, I was like, mine! And then I had like visions of Instagram in my head. I've already photographed him for Instagram sitting on a pallet of apples. I have a feeling he's going to make many more appearances because I'm obsessed. This is not a Halloween decoration in my opinion. This is elegant, fabulous home decor, and he shall remain out year-round. I think he'd be so cool with flowers around him. And what I want to talk about today is the Wheel of Fortune. That's what I should have done for my opening. I want to talk about the fortune card in the tarot, sometimes called the Wheel, sometimes called the Wheel of Fortune, and how for me this somehow, weirdly in my own mind, that I hope I can convey this to you in a way that makes sense. Somehow it's represented or tied up in this whole obsession I have right now with Saturn, with the planet Saturn. It's an archetype that I have really tapped into. If you listened to Tuesday's episode of Hippie Witch, you heard me talk all about it, how Saturn is the Roman counterpart to Kronos, and how Kronos on ancient Greco-Roman mosaics, he was depicted as a man turning the zodiac wheel. He was kind of like the Vanna White of gods back in the day. So I went looking at a Golden Dawn correspondence table that really tripped me out. Correspondences always trip me out because I never agree with them entirely. There are some that make sense to me. This chart, for example, the Golden Dawn sees the magician is corresponding with Mercury. That makes perfect sense to me. Or the moon is corresponding to the high priestess or the priestess card. Again, I totally get that. But then you have Cancer associated with the chariot card, which I totally don't get because to me, Cancer is very hermit-like. So I feel like Cancer and the Hermit card should correspond. I am laughing because I'm assuming so much about you that you know about astrology and mythology and tarot, but I'm going to assume you do, or that this is at least interesting enough to try to hang with me. But I see the Chariot card as being very Gemini, because I see the Chariot card as about these two totally different horses that you're trying to get going in the same direction. And Geminis, they're like that, you know, there's like two different sides to their personality, and I feel like you can make, if you're a Gemini character, you can make a lot more progress if you can get those two to play nice together and move in the same direction. The Temperance card supposedly corresponds to Sagittarius, which I do not get at all, if I'm remembering this correctly, because to me, Temperance should correspond to Libra, because Libra is about balance or the lack thereof, and that's what I think the Temperance card is about. And then there's like multiple cards that I think would work for Libra. The Justice card, yes, I totally get that. But for Saturn, if you listened to Tuesday's show, you heard me talk about how he is associated with Satan. And how that makes sense to me, because Kronos, aka Saturn, is the father of time. And Kronos, his mythology involves him eating his own children. And I think that that's why Saturn has become such a vilified character, because he is the father of time, and time marches on, and we are all ultimately, at least in this 3D reality, which is what Saturn rules, we are marching toward our death. And I think as infinite beings, we resent that. And so we're afraid of him, and we don't like him because he gives birth to us and then he takes our lives away, just like that, sometimes unexpectedly, which again really corresponds for me with the Wheel of Fortune, the fortune card in Tarot, which is, according to the Golden Dawn, corresponding with Jupiter, which also makes sense. I can totally accept that because Jupiter is the planet of luck, you know. But the fortune card, the wheel, is, you know, one day you're up, one day you're down. The life, death, life cycle. If you're a witch or a magical person who works with the cycles of life, who follows the wheel of the year, the life, death, life cycle, the phases of the moon, I feel like maybe you have a special affinity for the Wheel of Fortune card. And just thinking about astrology and looking up in the sky and the patterns. If you're following me on Patreon, you're probably currently working with tracking the transits of the moon around the different houses of your chart. And I guess that's what the point I'm trying to make today is, talking about the only thing, and it's really coming off talking about time in the podcast. I wanted to continue that and talk about the only thing that stays the same in life is change. Change is the only constant. And I know that's a total cliche, but it's worth taking some time to consider. I think about those old cool houses that people abandon, and then you've probably seen this on the internet, like a photographer will go in and take pictures of these old abandoned homes, and sometimes there will be food still laying out and clothes and furniture. And on the one hand, it's like a little time capsule of 1960 whatchamacallit or whatever year, however many decades ago. But then on the other hand, you can see that life and death, they march on, that you cannot really freeze a moment in time, because that is when rust and mold and decay start to set in. So I feel, as practitioners of magic, people who are interested in creating change in conformity with our will, we need to, this is why we do our shadow work. This is why we follow the phases, is because we're interested in leaning into change, because really we recognize that death is life and that change is a constant. And it's worth reminding ourselves, because we're human too, in addition to being witches or law of attraction practitioners or whatever you call yourself. We're so human, and something that humans do is they cling to relationships long past their expiration date, and the relationship starts to mold and decay and get really, really funky. Or we do that with a job or a career that it's time to outgrow. But because we get into our zone of lies, our comfort zone, or maybe we're people who are just really interested in escapism and living in a dream world, but never really bringing those dreams down into reality and doing what it takes to change our reality, we start to rust, we start to mold, we start to decay. And because I'm all about wanting to see you create the kick-ass life of your dreams, to really go for your dreams, to reach your full potential, to be the person that you know deep down inside you are meant to be. Because of that, I just wanted to remind you of this, and maybe get you to think about, like, well, where is the point in which the pain of staying the same outweighs the pleasure of escapism or the pleasure of remaining in my comfort zone? How much do things have to crumble down around me before I am willing to make a change, before I am willing to take a step outside the box and try something new? And I think that the more you can get yourself to do that, no matter what you have to do to leverage yourself into it. I think some people are natural change agents, and they amaze me. People that are just like, ooh, in the moment with life and just going from thing to thing to thing and still managing the responsibilities of their life at the same time. I mean, those people, they got it figured out. But for the rest of us, I think sometimes it's good to just check in with yourself and ask yourself, you know, especially as we enter into the time of death, like we're going into fall when it's a beautiful decay, the beautiful decay of, you know, the last remnants of the harvest, and then the trees start falling off the leaves, and Samhain is right around the corner, and death really shows itself as part of the life cycle. I think it's interesting to just take a pause and ask yourself about, like, where am I in this? Am I starting to rust? Is it time to make some changes? It's not too late. September is such a great time to give birth to a new dream or to set a new goal. A lot of us are doing that right now in the Psycho-Spiritual Wheel of the Year group. You can totally join us there because the autumn equinox is not till later on this month, and the project that we're doing for the autumn equinox module is about creating change, like taking a 30-day chunk of time and really working with that to do just what I was talking about. So if that interests you, there will be a link around here someplace. Otherwise, I would just think about my gold skull. I was just contemplating Saturn's relationship to the wheel of life and change, and how he is the ruler of this manifest 3D reality. And part of the lessons of being here is that our bodies change. Look at a picture of you from 10 years ago, and then look at a picture of you today, and then if you could go into the future and look at a picture of you 10 years from now, like, clearly this physical manifest reality is a place of change. And if you look at nature, if you look at the clues that are all around you every single day in the weather, in the stars up in the sky, it's laid out for you right there. So how can you embrace change in a way that serves your highest good? How can you embrace change in a way that allows you to become more of who you were meant to be, and really just to keep your life a thrill? So your relationship stays fresh, and your career stays fresh, and just your life itself. So yeah, that's all I had to say today. It was just a thought, I think, more than anything. This video was a thought. Until we meet again, much love to you. Peace.